So, what's up, everybody? This is Kevin. This is the first episode of screencasts on kevindees.cc. So, I'm excited. Hopefully, you can learn something new from here. Uh, Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over how to set up WordPress securely from install to the base of your site, right? So, I'm not a security expert, first disclaimer, but I think I have a few good things to share, some ways to make sure your WordPress installation is more secure. When you talk about security, there is no silver bullet to it. Define secure. Things are constantly changing on the web, so you can be secure today, but you won't be secure tomorrow. And so having a clear mindset and understanding some of the things that you can do to be secure now and prepare you for the future is really, the important part. But just a quick cap up of who I am. My name's Kevin. I'm a front-end web developer. I also do back-end stuff. I do quite a bit with WordPress, make plugins, themes, and everything in between. And so hopefully, I can share my knowledge with you guys. I just got my Mac, just got the equipment to do this. So I'm excited. I've been planning to do this for a while. I haven't been able to get around to it. I wanted to make sure I had the quality equipment. There was stuff out there for Windows, but it wasn't as good as this stuff. So, it's a bunch of whiz-bang stuff going on. I'm pretty pumped about it. Let's go ahead and dig in and, get some more episodes out, kind of, and get these churning. So the first thing we have to do is we get all of our WordPress files set up, and you got to go download this stuff, right? So here I am. I got my WP Security Scan, one of the plugins we're going to be using. Login Lockdown, another plugin. Edit-Author-Slug is another plugin we're going to be using. This is a way to hide your username from people. I'll get into that later. You got to download WordPress, right? So you got to do that. So you can go to WordPress.org, download WordPress, and you can go to the extensions, download the plugins. Again, Edit-Author-Slug, Login Lockdown, and last but not least, WP Security Scan. And you don't have to leave Security Can turned on. Basically, what each one of these do is the slug changes the author slug. Login Lockdown basically protects your login from brute force attacks. And WP Security Scan does a few things. It's going to help you generate better passwords, on the fly. File permissions, it kind of tells you what's wrong with your file permissions. It doesn't necessarily change your file permissions. Then you have database security with that, like backing things up and all that other stuff. And then hiding the version of WordPress from the site. We'll get into that later. And also, just a few other things, WordPress, admin, security, whatever, So it's good. You can tell the rating isn't that great for it, but a bunch of sites use it, and my friends recommend it, so it's a good plugin. And like I said, you can turn it off if you don't want it running constantly, but it's a good thing to have to turn on and check, just kind of a upkeep, turn it on, make sure everything's okay when you install a plugin or something, It's good to have. So let's go ahead and dig in. So we talked about downloading all this stuff. So we've got it downloaded, and what you can do is, the base of my site is going to be install/WordPress. So when you go to your host, use a WordPress directory, because later on we're going to move the wp-config file. Right now we just have a WP config sample, which we're going to go through the WYSIWYG editor, or the WYSIWYG wizard thing, whatever they call it, the wizard, to go in and create our WP config. And then we're going to move it back one folder. So if you're creating a site, be sure to, have separate folders, like multiple levels deep. That way, if you have more than one WordPress blog on a host, when you move your WP config file back, they don't override each other and you have things messing up, okay? So under our content and plugins, we have the 3 plugins. I deleted the default install just in case you're wondering. And once we've done that, we can go to set up our tutorial. And if you hear sound effects in the back, I am doing this from the house. So, it's been raining on and off today and everything. So, hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. I think it adds a personal touch, kind of. Anyways, so here we go. And let's go ahead and create that configuration file that we're talking about. Okay. 5 things WordPress wants you to do. Okay. Create a database. Create a user and a password for that user. Do that. Don't use usernames and passwords that you use for other stuff. Okay? Use a separate user for your database, and then set that user to have permission for only that database. The permissions that you're going to need for that user are alter, create, delete, drop, event, execute, index, insert, references, select, trigger, and update, all in alphabetical order. But you want to make sure that you have those permissions depending on the plugin. You'll have to have different permissions. I know WP Security Scan requires alter, so that's why we have that in there. But that's kind of that. And then create a good password. Don't use password as your password. Into this tutorial, I'm using password as a password. It's just easier that way. And then make sure your host is the right host and set up a table prefix. So let's go do that. Let's go. So I called this install, and then my username was install. There we go. Password was password, localhost, table prefix. I'm going to call mine in. Okay. Just change this when you make a WordPress website. Just do it. It's the best thing for you. I promise. Don't use WP. Just don't. I can go and grab all the data or delete it all because I know your prefix. So this is a way to obscure that a little bit. The only downside of that is not all WordPress developers, some people like to hard code that prefix in. They'll put WP underscore for whatever reason, and then their plugin breaks. So if you use a plugin that does that, that might be the reason it breaks. You can always go check for that and do a find and replace kind of deal. Usually those plugins aren't too mission critical anyways. So, change that. It's an obscurity thing, so, you can do that. Let's click submit. All right, everything looks good. We're running installation, right? All right, so we'll give it a title, call it that. Change your default username. Don't use admin. Don't use admin. It's the dumbest thing ever. It's just terrible. People, okay, there are 2 fields to log into your site. If you use admin as the default, half the hackers in the world are going to already know the first field, because they're going to use admin as the first thing to check all the passwords against, So I'd do admin, and then password is the password for your website. I bet you I could get in if you're not doing it right. Anyway, so I'm going to use password here. It's telling me it's a terrible password. It says it's weak. I'm going to call this install. Because I shouldn't use the admin. Email, we'll use my real email. I don't care about Google's terrible service. It makes money off that. Alrighty, so we're installed. Let's breathe into the mic and then install, and password is the password. Alrighty. That easy. We set up our user. We have the right permissions for that in the database. We've gone and created our WP config file, and now we need to move it. We've got to move this thing. It's just not safe. So here we see, look at there. It wasn't there before. Pretty. Move it back a directory. There you go. That's a good thing. And then when somebody goes to your site and they say, I want to hack this site. I want to hack it today. WP config.php. Oh, it's not found. It's not there. Because I moved it and I can't, I can't do, it's not going to let me do .. It's just not going to work. But, if I go here, drop that back in WordPress, go back to my site and do this, you know what? Oh, I actually can hit that file, and that's not a good thing if I can access that file from the domain. Come on, you got to move that thing. So, you got to move that back. Zing. That's the best thing for you right there. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right, so let's go check out our plugins, right? So we've moved our WP config file back, and if you did that manually, by the way, before we move on, if you did that manually, if you filled all that in manually, you need to get some new hashes. Salt that thing. Okay, so if I go to Sublime here, and let's find this WP config. Oh, it's not going to be here. It's not. It's going to be in this level. That's where I put it, So if I go here, see this? When I ran the wizard, it did that. If I go and do this manually, it's not going to do that. You know, gonna have to go to that URL right there, grab the new ones, use them. Okay, sound good? Good. Alrighty, so I've done that. Now we can go take a look at these plugins. Try to get through this as quickly as possible. Okay. So edit the author slug, activate that one. That's a good one. So now basically what this does is it lets us stop people from hacking our site even more, figuring out our username, even if we don't use the admin user. So if I go to well, of course I don't have friendly URLs turned on yet, so I can't do that. But let's go to permalinks because we haven't created an htaccess file yet. So if we go and save our permalinks, this will create the htaccess file for us. And you'll see that the author base is here, which that plugin gives us. So I can change the author base. So let's go ahead and do this now. Okay, so I've created my htaccess file. If I refresh this, it should. Oh, come on now! Don't disappoint me. Come on. All right. Oh. Something's I didn't change it. There we go. All right. Whew. This is hard. Okay. Author install. Boom. You know, I can tell what your user is by the path there. You know, that's not good. I know what your username is, so your changing of the admin default user, you know, was pointless. It was dumb. Didn't do you any good. So the first thing we can do is we can use something like you know, me. Or you. We'll use me since I'm a one-person blog, right? Save those changes. Now if I go here, hey, look at there, it is not found. Cannot find it. It's just embarrassing, man. So if I go here, me, change the base, boom, just like that. But it doesn't. I can still see my username. You know. So what do? Users. I can go up here, edit my thing, and this gives me, you know, the install thing. So I can put Kevin D's here instead of install as my author slug. And this will, you know, not show my username when somebody goes to the URL. And that's what you want. See? Don't exist. And now no one can go to your username and hack you. But you see I still have install here. Ugh, it's a huge process, man. It's terrible. But it's alright because, you know, this is pretty straightforward. You just go drop my name in here. And that, you know, this is called the nickname. And, you know, all I have to do is go in here. Or actually the display publicly as part. I can change the nickname to whatever I want. But, you know, Kevin D's. And that's what's going to change this, okay? So here we go. I basically completely secured my login username for the most part. I mean, what does completely even mean? You know, what is that sense of security? Alrighty, so we've gone and done that. Now time for the next plugin. Hey, there you go. One down, two to go. Pretty quick. All right, login lockdown. It's pretty easy setup. You go under settings once you activate it. Login lockdown. You set my max number of tries to 3. You know, retry time period restriction. Lockout length. Basically, if I fail 3 times, I can't get back in for another hour. So my retry period restriction, I'm not even sure. You know, I'm not even sure what that means. But the lockout, that's what's important. Lock them out for 30 minutes. You know what this does is it protects you against brute force attacks. If somebody uses your username, say, you know, it's admin, you have an easy password, they could go and hit that site a bunch of times with different passwords with like 20 different machines and figure out your password in no time. So this helps protect you against that. You know, you can lock out invalid usernames. Yeah, this does all kinds of IP stuff, so it'll block IPs. So if you do this on your local machine, it's going to block your home address, and you won't be able to log in from your home address unless you go to the database and delete those entries, which are stored in separate tables, which is a good thing. So the other thing you want to do is mask your user errors or your login errors. So when, like, if I log in and I use, you know, Kevin D's, because because somebody's going to think, hey, author/Kevin D's, that's the username. So they go to the login page. Now, we'll go to the login page. I'm going to go ahead and mask them though, so we can see this in action. So I go to the login page. Let me log out. And I go Kevin D's. Log me in. Password field's empty. Well, duh. Let me do one. Log in. Okay, so username or password is incorrect. And basically what this would do if I put install here. See, I'm afraid I'm going to get locked out now. But basically, 3 login attempts, period. So not in succession, by the way. So if, through install, password is 1. Doesn't tell me if my password was right. It just says, or it doesn't tell me my username was right. It just says nothing. So I don't get really good information. And I can use password to log back in. Okay. Not going to remember myself, but you'll notice this thing down here. This is going to look ugly to a client, so we're going to want to get rid of this, especially if you're doing a client site. Login protected by login lockdown. Plus, we don't want anybody to know we're using login lockdown, right? That's kind of like, oh, they're using that. I know I shouldn't do that. So let's log in. Let me show you how to get rid of that. Okay. Go to Sublime again. All I have to do is open up the login lockdown PHP file. This will be found in the login lockdown directory in plugins. Right about here. You gotta see it right here. Can you see that? Okay. And there's this little feature in here that adds that link, and they've placed that really nicely in a separate function, so you don't have to go change up a ton of code. You just can comment some stuff out. In mine, the current version that it's running right now, line 316. Line 316. I just go and comment out this add action login form. So on the login page, it runs this LL login lockdown credit link, right? My clients don't care. So just going to get rid of this little echo statement here. Protected. You could always add your own little thing in here. Protected by, Awesome Sauce Design Agency. You can drop it in there and change it, but if they update the plugin, it gets destroyed. So that's the other thing. If you do this kind of stuff, it just gets destroyed. So that's one thing. So that's login lockdown. We'll go ahead and close that. Clean things up. Clean this up too. Keep things nice and neat. So that's login lockdown. And works pretty good. Works pretty good. So I think it's pretty awesome. Next plugin. WP Security Scan. You know how I said it gets rid of the generator? What does that mean? What does it mean to get rid of the generator code in WordPress? Well, let's inspect our page. Go into the head here. Scroll down. Right there. Meta content. WordPress 3.2.1. So that kind of dates this episode thing. I do a podcast too, by the way, so you may hear me say podcast instead of screencast a lot. Web Weekly TV, if you're interested, webweekly.tv. But creates a generator, gives you the user version name. That's not good, because then I can go to a site and see if I can, hack it different ways. Like if somebody's running 2.9, I can, say, hey, I know there was a bug in this one, and this is how you hack it. So because of a flaw in WordPress. Which the nice thing about WordPress is because the community is so large, they patch these things almost instantly. It's just great. So, we saw that. Basically what this does, it's going to get rid of that for us. So if I activate that, it creates this security section down here. Let's go through these real quick. It says, I have the latest stable version. That's great. htaccess file does not exist in WP admin. Oh boy. Scanner. Yeah, here it is. Right there. File permissions. That was created. You may not see this if you don't use htaccess, and if it's in red and you don't use it, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. But here it tells you that you're using the right permissions. If my permissions for these files were wrong, it wouldn't be so great. It'd be like if I had this 777, that would show up in red, right? I think I can go here to screenshots to show you an example. So yeah, see red here, 777. Okay, so the deal with file permission security is a sticky subject because It basically means any user on that server can access it. So if you're on a shared host, it makes most sense not to use 777 ever. I would not use it on a shared host ever, especially if you don't know what their Apache user is running as, and if everybody is running on the same Apache installation is what I really mean. And they're just creating virtual hosts for everybody on the same. I mean, that's just terrible. It's terrible. But a shared host, so you can't complain. But basically what 777 does is it says any user on that server can access and read and write to those files. That doesn't mean people on the outside. Okay, people on the outside are using HTTP to get in. They're not using a user account. They're using HTTP to communicate to Apache to let it do its thing. Okay, so not a whole lot they can do outside of send crappy headers. If you know what that means, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. But send crappy headers over to try to destroy stuff. But that doesn't have much to do with your file permissions, to be honest. Unless they're requesting a file with HTTP, and then that's why we move our WP config back. Protect against that kind of stuff, so we don't expose that file to the HTTP requests. I could go on and on forever about this, but essentially, I wouldn't worry about it too much if you're running like a dedicated server or a virtual private machine, something you've set up or your sysadmin that's done for you. Get a sysadmin to worry about this stuff. If you're the only person that logs into it, that's great. Make sure that password is secure. I'm talking about your server. If you're the only person that logs into your server with the file permission stuff, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. The only issue is that multiple things on your computer run as users. Like Apache, for one, is one I know of that runs as a user. So you have like www-data, I think Apache runs as, something like that. And so if it's 777, Apache can do whatever it wants to it, not just you. So, keep that in mind. So that's file permissions, and it tells you everything. WordPress requires that you use 755 for folders, 644 for files, I think, or 655. I can't remember. It's one of those two. Just use good permissions. And so password tool, type a password. It's weak. Oh, it's so weak. Oh, now it's strong because I typed in just a bunch of characters. Okay. Strong password, you can grab that. I wonder, refresh this page. It generates a nice little password every time. Refresh the page. Yeah, there's a new password. So you can use those. Database. You can back it up. Back it up. It's always good. Back up your database. Save it. And that is WP security. And it tells you all this lovely information. It's not that big a deal. And you can support some of these projects. This isn't a support tab. It's more of a documentation tab. So that's a good one. And like I said earlier, the WP config, or the generator thing, if we go in here, head, see it's not there because the security, WP security, gets rid of it for us. But like I said, I don't like to run this plugin constantly because it's more of an error check, and I don't want to run a ton of code. So normally if I think I need to check something, I'll install that, check, make sure my file permissions are good if it's on a shared host. Then I'll go over to my functions PHP in my theme using the default WordPress one, and I'll add this function right here, remove _action. Basically, this is like add action. Basically, you're initializing the action whenever the WP head is called, and you're removing this action. WP generator. Okay, so saved it, and it's gone. So there you go. Proof pointing, whatever. Alrighty, so that's WP. That's all that security stuff. Go through my list, make sure I got everything. Permissions, nicknames, config, wizard, folders, DB user. I think it's pretty good. We got most of it. So if you want to know more about hardening WordPress, is what we're going to call this. Hardening WordPress. That's what the technical term is. There's a nice, just Google hardening WordPress and this site will show up. But WordPress.org has a good thing on securing WordPress. It goes through everything. the vulnerabilities of your computer, the vulnerabilities of WordPress itself, server vulnerabilities, network, passwords, file permissions, you name it, it's in here. Database security, WP admin, WP includes, config, which one we just went over. If you can, use SSL for your login page and your admin section. It's going to load a little bit slower, but much better to send those passwords encrypted than in plain text, right? Firewalls, security through obscurity. That's most of what we do. You know, I mean, that's most of what you can do if you're developing and programming. It's most of what you can do. The real security is going to come through a system administrator. But this stuff is pretty good. And it shows that you paid attention to what you're doing. So you're talking about a prefix here. Backup. That's the best security solution right there, is backup. You know, this is why when your site gets hacked and your client gets mad at you because they lost everything, they can't get mad at you, really, because you can just say, hey, you know, I have backup. You can just throw that on there. They'll be happy. They'll be like, yeah, you know, the last guy I went with, I lost my whole site, and with you, it's backed up. So that's good stuff. I don't know. I think I'm being a little dramatic. I'm not sure. I think it's good. I think it's good. I think this is a good first episode. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. You know, if this was helpful, if this really helped you out, you can check out my blog, kevindees.cc. You can find all the links and notes and stuff in there, and you know, give me a tip. Give me a tip if you think it was good enough. Think it helped you out. And this is how I'm able to pay for bandwidth and all that other stuff, and you know, potentially do more of these. You know, at great time for me. It's always nice to know what people are, you know, what people are watching, what they're paying attention to. So you know, I have videos, all that jazz in there. You know, I can always kill these fields and stuff, and you know, I don't really need your email, but just in case you donate and I want to set you up an account in the future or something, or give you credit, you know, I can get in contact with you, right? So thanks for tuning in to the first episode. I'm sure things will change over time. This is my first screencast, so